In the heart of a restless city, Ethan, a driven architect, and Mia, an enigmatic artist, find their lives inexplicably intertwined. But beneath their growing connection lies a web of secrets and betrayals. As shadows from the past close in, they must confront the question, is their bond a fateful lifeline or the start of their undoing? The school hallways buzzed with energy as students shuffled between classes, their chatter blending into a symphony of youth. Amid the chaos, Mia Walker walked with her books clutched tightly to her chest, her heart racing not from the pace of her steps, but from the familiar presence she sensed nearby. Ethan Carter, the boy with stormy blue eyes and a quiet demeanor. He was the school's enigma, brilliant in science, but terrible at keeping his emotions in check. He often sat alone at lunch, sketching in a notebook he never let anyone see. Mia had noticed him from afar for weeks now, though she'd never gathered the courage to say more than a shy hello. Mia wasn't the kind of girl people noticed. She was studious and reserved, spending more time in the library than at pep rallies. Yet, something about Ethan had drawn her in. Maybe it was the way he seemed lost in thought, as if his mind was somewhere far beyond the high school walls. One afternoon, fate intervened. Mia had stayed late to work on a history project and found herself wandering into the art room. She froze at the doorway when she saw Ethan there, sketching with fierce concentration. The room was silent except for the soft scrape of his pencil against paper. She stepped in hesitantly. "You're really good," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Ethan's head snapped up, his eyes wide with surprise. He blinked at her, as if unsure whether she was real. "Thanks," he muttered, closing his notebook instinctively. "I'm sorry," Mia stammered. "I didn't mean to interrupt." He hesitated, then gestured to a stool across from him. "It's fine. You can stay if you want." That was the start of something neither of them had planned. Over the next few weeks, they found themselves stealing moments together. In the library, Ethan would glance up from his sketches to find Mia lost in a book. Their eyes would meet, and for a brief second, the world around them would fade. In the cafeteria, Mia would catch Ethan doodling on napkins, their gazes locking as if sharing a secret language. Their conversations were slow to unfold. Ethan talked about his dream of becoming an architect, of designing buildings that could tell stories. Mia shared her love of writing and her goal to publish a novel one day. They realized they both carried big dreams that felt too large for the small town they called home. One rainy afternoon, as they sat together under the bleachers during gym class, Ethan pulled out his sketchbook and handed it to Mia. "Here," he said, "I trust you." Mia flipped through the pages, her breath catching at the beauty of his work. He had drawn intricate cityscapes, each one more vivid than the last. But what stunned her most were the sketches of a girl with soft curls and thoughtful eyes, sketches of her. "Ethan," she began, her voice trembling. "I couldn't help it," he admitted, looking away. "You inspire me." Mia's cheeks flushed, but she reached out and touched his hand gently. "I think you're amazing." From that moment on, their bond deepened. They encouraged each other to chase their dreams, even as the pressures of school and family loomed over them. Mia helped Ethan research architecture schools, while Ethan read drafts of Mia's short stories, offering thoughtful critiques. But their journey wasn't without challenges. Gossip spread quickly in their small school. Some sneered at the unlikely pairing, while others teased Ethan for finally coming out of his shell. Yet through it all, they stood by each other, finding solace in their shared dreams. The year flew by, and soon graduation was upon them. As they stood together in their caps and gowns, Ethan turned to Mia with a rare smile. "I got into Columbia," he said. "Full scholarship." Mia's eyes lit up. "That's amazing. I'm so proud of you." "What about you?" he asked. She grinned. "NYU accepted me. Looks like we'll both be in the city." Ethan reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. "I couldn't have done it without you, Mia." She shook her head. "We did this together. Stolen glances, shared dreams. That's our story." And as they walked across the stage to collect their diplomas, they knew this was only the beginning of a new chapter, a story of love, ambition, and a shared future waiting to unfold. The summer after graduation felt like a dream, suspended in golden light. Ethan and Mia spent every moment they could together, savoring the calm before the chaos of moving to New York City. Their small town buzzed with pride for the two rising stars. though whispers of doubt lingered among those who questioned whether their relationship could survive the trials ahead. "You ready for the big city?" Ethan asked one warm evening as they sat on the hood of his car, parked on a quiet hill overlooking their town. Mia smiled, the fading sunlight reflecting in her eyes, terrified, but also ready. Ethan chuckled, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "Same here. It's going to be different, isn't it?" "Yeah," she said softly, reaching for his hand. "But as long as we have each other, we'll figure it out." By September, they had both settled into their new lives. Mia's dorm at NYU was a whirlwind of creative energy, filled with aspiring writers and artists who shared her passion. Ethan, meanwhile, was thrown into the competitive world of architecture at Columbia, surrounded by peers who were just as talented and ambitious as he was. Their schedules were hectic, and the city's relentless pace was overwhelming. They could no longer steal glances in the cafeteria or spend lazy afternoons under the bleachers. Instead, they navigated subway rides and late-night phone calls, carving out time to meet whenever they could. One chilly October evening, Mia sat in a crowded coffee shop, typing furiously on her laptop. She was working on a short story for her creative writing class, but couldn't focus. Her thoughts kept drifting to Ethan, who had texted earlier that he was pulling an all-nighter for a major project. As if on cue, the door jingled, and Ethan walked in, looking exhausted but determined. He spotted her instantly and broke into a tired smile. "Surprise," he said, dropping into the chair across from her. Mia laughed. "What are you doing here? Don't you have a model to finish?" "I needed a break," he admitted. "And I missed you." Her heart swelled. "Well, you're just in time. I was about to lose my mind over this story." They spent the evening together, Ethan sketching in his notebook while Mia wrote. The hum of the city outside felt distant, as if they had carved out a little world of their own amidst the chaos. By their second semester, the strain of balancing school, work, and their relationship began to show. Ethan's professors pushed him harder, and Mia's deadlines piled up. There were arguments about missed calls, rescheduled plans, and the growing weight of their responsibilities. "I feel like we're drifting apart," Mia confessed one evening after yet another canceled date. Ethan sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I know, I hate it too, but I don't know how to fix it." "Maybe we need to step back," she said reluctantly, her voice trembling. Ethan's eyes met hers, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. The idea of a break felt like tearing apart the very fabric of their connection. "No," he said firmly. "We've come too far to let this slip away." Mia nodded, tears welling in her eyes. "Then we need to find a way to make this work." With renewed determination, they began to prioritize their relationship. They planned weekly dates, simple things like walking through Central Park or exploring the city's hidden gems. They supported each other in every way they could. Ethan proofread Mia's stories, and she offered him feedback on his designs. By the end of their first year, both had achieved milestones they hadn't dared to dream of. Mia's short story was published in a literary magazine, and Ethan won an award for an innovative urban design project. One night, as they celebrated their victories over pizza in Ethan's tiny apartment, he turned to her with a serious expression. "You know," he said, "I used to think I'd have to leave everything behind to chase my dreams. But then I met you." Mia smiled, her heart full. "And I thought I'd always be the girl hiding in the library, but you showed me how to believe in myself." He reached for her hand. "Whatever happens next, we face it together." Years later, they stood together in front of a gleaming skyscraper Ethan had designed. The building was a tribute to their shared dreams, its foundation rooted in their love and resilience. Mia had become a successful author, her debut novel inspired by their journey. As they looked up at the towering structure, she turned to Ethan and smiled. "From stolen glances to this," she said softly. Ethan wrapped an arm around her, his gaze filled with pride. "And it's just the beginning." Their story was proof that love, when nurtured with patience and determination, could withstand anything, and that dreams, no matter how big, were always better when shared. The skyscraper, the horizon, stood as an enduring symbol of hope and ambition in the heart of the city. Its gleaming facade, adorned with intricate patterns inspired by Ethan's journey, seemed to reach for the sky, a testament to dreams realized. Visitors to its grand lobby often pause to read the plaque mounted near the entrance. Dreams are built not in isolation, but in shared moments of courage, love, and belief. May this place inspire others to reach beyond the horizon. The words, penned by Mia, echoed the journey they had traveled together. Since those tender moments of stolen glances in high school hallways, life had transformed beyond their wildest imaginings. Ethan, now a celebrated architect, designed spaces that told stories of resilience and connection. Mia's novels captivated the world, their themes of love and ambition resonating deeply with readers. Yet, even in success, life proved complicated. Their careers demanded so much. Ethan often traveled for projects abroad, while Mia's whirlwind book tours left her away for weeks. The once familiar rhythm of their life together faltered. One evening, after an extended separation, Mia returned to their apartment, her heart heavy despite the excitement of her latest bestseller. Ethan, his suitcase half-packed for a project in Tokyo, greeted her with a warm but weary smile. "We need to talk," she said, setting her bag down. He paused, sensing the gravity of her tone. "What's wrong?" Sitting beside him, Mia reached for his hand. "Ethan, I feel like we've become two people chasing separate dreams. We're together, but somehow, we're apart." Her words hit home. He exhaled, leaning back. "I know, I felt it too. But how do we change it? This is what we wanted, isn't it? Success doesn't have to mean losing each other," she said softly. "Maybe it's time we redefine what success looks like for us." The conversation was difficult but pivotal. They began making changes, scaling back on work that pulled them apart, and intentionally creating moments to reconnect. Sunday mornings became sacred, breakfasts spent reading together, followed by strolls through the city that had once felt so overwhelming. They supported each other's dreams anew, not just as spectators, but as partners. Mia's next novel was deeply introspective, exploring love amidst the chaos of modern life, while Ethan designed community centers that encouraged connection and creativity. Their careers flourished in tandem, fueled by a renewed sense of purpose. Years later, on the rooftop of the Horizon, bathed in the warm glow of their anniversary celebration, Ethan turned to Mia with a mischievous smile. "There's one more dream I've been saving," he said, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. Inside was a delicate ring, its design mirroring the graceful curves of the Horizon structure. "Mia," he began, his voice steady, "will you keep building this life with me?" Her eyes filled with tears as she smiled and whispered, "Always." Their wedding was a reflection of their story, held in a luminous atrium Ethan had designed, lined with bookshelves overflowing with Mia's favorite works. It was attended by those who had been part of their journey, family, friends, and the many young dreamers they had inspired along the way. As the years passed, they created a legacy not just of personal success, but of giving back. They founded initiatives to help underprivileged youth pursue writing and architecture, ensuring their story would inspire others to dream boldly. One evening, as they sat together on their balcony watching the sun sink below the horizon, Mia turned to Ethan, a smile playing on her lips. "Do you think we've made it?" she asked. Ethan kissed her temple, his voice filled with warmth. "Mia, as long as we're together, we've always made it." And in that quiet golden moment, they knew their love story was still unfolding, as limitless as the horizon itself. The years of love and success had brought Mia and Ethan to a life they could only have dreamed of. Yet beneath the surface of their seemingly perfect story, a shadow was beginning to form, one that neither of them could foresee. It began with a letter. One crisp autumn morning, as Mia sat at her writing desk overlooking the city skyline, she opened an unmarked envelope slipped under their apartment door. The paper inside was old and creased, the handwriting unfamiliar. "Do you truly know who you've built your dreams with?" Her heart skipped a beat. The cryptic message lingered in her mind all day, but she dismissed it as a prank. Ethan had no enemies. They lived a quiet life, surrounded by love and admiration. She decided not to mention it to him, thinking it unimportant. But then more letters came. Each one was more disturbing than the last, hinting at secrets from Ethan's past. One letter included a newspaper clipping from years ago, a fire that destroyed a family home in a small town. The article listed Ethan as a survivor, but the circumstances surrounding the fire were labeled suspicious. Mia confronted him that evening. "Ethan, what is this?" she asked, holding up the clipping. Ethan's face paled as he read it. He sat down heavily, the weight of the past crashing over him. "I was going to tell you," he said quietly. "I just didn't know how." Mia's voice trembled. "Tell me what?" He looked up at her, guilt etched into his features. "That fire wasn't an accident, and I wasn't just a survivor. I was the one who set it." The words hit her like a punch to the stomach. "What are you saying? You started it? Why?" Ethan buried his face in his hands. "It was years ago. My parents were abusive, Mia. That house was my prison. I was desperate to escape, but I didn't mean for it to get so out of control. I thought no one was home. I thought I could just burn it all away." Mia's mind raced. The man she loved, the one who had built a life of beauty and hope alongside her, had a past he'd never shared, a past that was now unraveling before her. "Why didn't you tell me?" she whispered. "I didn't want you to see me as a monster," he said, tears in his eyes. "I've spent my whole life trying to atone for what I did, Mia. Building things, helping others, it's how I cope. But now someone knows, and they're trying to destroy us." The letters didn't stop. Whoever was behind them knew intimate details about Ethan's life, things he hadn't even told Mia. Each letter carried a subtle threat, suggesting they exposed the truth to the world. Mia tried to focus on her writing, but her thoughts were consumed by questions. Could she trust Ethan? Was there more to the story than he had admitted? And who was tormenting them now? One evening, as Ethan worked late in his studio, Mia received a phone call. The voice on the other end was distorted, robotic. "You've built your dreams on lies," the caller said. "If you want the truth, meet me tomorrow night at Pier 17, alone." Mia's hands shook as the line went dead. She didn't tell Ethan about the call. Instead, she resolved to go. She needed answers, even if it meant stepping into danger. The following night, Mia arrived at the darkened pier, her heart pounding. She scanned the area, the sound of the water lapping against the dock, filling the silence. A figure stepped out of the shadows, a woman, older, with piercing eyes that seemed to cut through Mia. "You must be Mia," the woman said, her voice cold. "Who are you?" Mia demanded. "Why are you doing this?" The woman smirked. "I'm someone who knows what Ethan really is. My name is Margaret. I was their neighbor, the one who called the fire department that night. Ethan may have told you he was trying to escape, but did he tell you his family was still inside?" Mia froze. "That's not true," she said, her voice shaking. "He said he thought no one was home." Margaret stepped closer. "He lied. I saw him that night, standing outside the house, watching it burn. His parents and younger brother were inside. They all died, and he walked away." "No," Mia whispered, backing away. "You're lying." "Am I?" Margaret countered. "Why don't you ask him yourself? But be careful, because if he could do that to them, what's stopping him from doing it to you?" Mia returned home, her mind spinning. Ethan was waiting for her, concern etched on his face. "Where were you?" he asked. She stared at him, her chest tight. "I met Margaret. She told me everything." Ethan's expression darkened. "Margaret has been stalking me for years. She's obsessed with blaming me for what happened. She doesn't know the full story." "Then tell me," Mia shouted. "Did you know they were inside, Ethan? Did you?" Silence. His gaze dropped, and in that moment she knew the truth. "I didn't think they'd die," he said finally. "I wanted them to suffer like I did, but it got out of control." Mia's heart shattered. The man she loved had been hiding not just a mistake, but a darkness she couldn't ignore. "I can't do this," she whispered, stepping back. "I can't live with this." As Mia packed her things that night, Ethan pleaded with her to stay. But the weight of his past and the lies that had bound them were too much to bear. Months later, Mia released a new novel, a story about love, betrayal, and the shadows that linger in the corners of our lives. It became her most celebrated work, though readers couldn't help but wonder if it was inspired by truth. As for Ethan, he vanished from the public eye, leaving behind his career and the life they had built together. And somewhere in the city, Mia sat by her window, staring at the horizon they once dreamed of, wondering if she would ever be free of the man she had loved and the secrets he carried. The apartment was eerily quiet after Mia confronted Ethan. The tension hung thick in the air, both of them retreating to separate corners of their shared space. As the city hummed below them, Mia sat by the window, her mind racing. Margaret's words echoed relentlessly. If he could do that to them, what's stopping him from doing it to you? Mia's hands trembled as she unlocked her laptop. She started digging into news archives, looking for anything that could confirm or refute Ethan's version of the story. The fire, the deaths, Margaret, there had to be something more. But as she scrolled through endless articles, her screen suddenly went black. What the? She muttered, jabbing the power button. Nothing. A soft click came from the hallway. Mia froze. Ethan? She called out cautiously. No response. Grabbing her phone, she turned on the flashlight and slowly stepped out of the room. The apartment felt darker than usual, the shadows stretching unnaturally along the walls. Ethan, if this is some kind of joke, it's not funny, she said, her voice shaky. A noise, like a faint scraping, came from the kitchen. Mia's heart pounded as she crept toward the sound, the beam of light trembling in her hand. The kitchen was empty, but the back door was slightly ajar. She moved closer, her breath shallow, and pushed it open. Outside on their small balcony was Ethan, hunched over something she couldn't see. Ethan, she whispered. He whipped around, his face pale and his eyes wide with panic. Mia, get back inside! What are you doing? She demanded, stepping closer. Get inside, he hissed, his voice urgent. That's when she saw it. On the ground was another letter, this one scrawled in the same handwriting as the others. Ethan had been burning it, the edges curling and blackening in the cool night air. What does it say? Mia demanded, snatching the half-charred paper before Ethan could stop her. The words were jagged, hurried, and terrifying. You think the fire was the end of it? The truth will burn you both. Before either of them could speak, the lights in the apartment flickered violently. A loud bang echoed from the living room. What was that? Mia whispered, clutching the letter. Ethan grabbed her arm, pulling her inside. Stay behind me. The living room was in chaos. Furniture was overturned, books strewn across the floor, and the window was shattered, a cold breeze whipping through the room. On the coffee table, another letter lay in plain sight. Ethan picked it up with shaking hands. It read, You're not the only one who remembers that night, Ethan, and I'm closer than you think. The words chilled them both. Mia felt her knees buckle, but Ethan caught her, his jaw tight. This isn't just Margaret, he said, his voice low. Someone else knows. But how? Mia demanded. You said it was an accident. Who else could possibly? A loud crash cut her off. It came from the bedroom. Ethan grabbed a heavy lamp from the table as they crept toward the bedroom door. The sound of footsteps was unmistakable now. Someone was in their apartment. Ethan threw the door open, the lamp raised, but the room was empty. The curtains fluttered in the breeze from the open window. They're gone, Ethan said, scanning the room. No, Mia whispered, pointing to the dresser. Carved into the wood was a single word, run. Ethan, Mia said, her voice trembling, we're not safe here. Before he could respond, a phone buzzed on the nightstand. It wasn't Mia's, it wasn't Ethan's. Ethan picked it up cautiously, answering the call. A distorted voice on the other end chuckled darkly. Hello, Ethan, enjoying the game? Ethan's knuckles whitened as he gripped the phone. Who are you? The voice ignored the question. Tick-tock. If you want to keep your dreams intact, meet me where it all began. Midnight. Alone. The line went dead. Mia and Ethan didn't need to ask. They both knew where it all began. The remains of Ethan's childhood home, a charred skeleton on the outskirts of his hometown, had long since been abandoned. It was the last place Ethan ever wanted to go, but they had no choice. As midnight approached, they drove in silence, the tension between them thick and suffocating. You don't have to do this, Mia said finally, her voice soft. Yes, I do, Ethan replied, his jaw set. This isn't just about me anymore. It's about us, and whoever's behind this, they're not going to stop. When they arrived, the air was heavy with the scent of ash, even after all these years. The ruins loomed in the moonlight, a grim reminder of Ethan's past. They stepped cautiously into the remains of the house, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. Hello? Ethan called out. A figure emerged from the shadows, their face obscured by a hood. In their hand was a small device, a lighter. I've been waiting for you, the figure said, their voice eerily calm. Who are you? Ethan demanded. The figure pulled back their hood, revealing a young man with sharp, angry eyes. I'm the brother you thought you killed, he said. Ethan staggered back, his flashlight shaking. No, that's not possible. You were in the house. You couldn't have. The man's lips curled into a bitter smile. You left me to die, but I didn't. I escaped, Ethan, and now I'm here to make you feel what I felt. With that, he flicked the lighter, the flame casting ominous shadows across the ruined walls. Stop! Mia shouted. You don't have to do this. But the man's gaze was locked on Ethan. This is the end of your dream, brother, and the start of your nightmare. The flame dropped to the ground, igniting a trail of accelerant neither of them had noticed. Fire roared to life around them, and the figure disappeared into the chaos. Mia and Ethan scrambled to find a way out, the flames consuming the structure rapidly. Smoke filled their lungs as they stumbled through the wreckage. Over here! Ethan shouted, kicking open a boarded-up doorway. They burst into the cool night air, coughing and gasping. Behind them, the house collapsed in a fiery inferno, taking with it the secrets of the past. As sirens wailed in the distance, Mia turned to Ethan, her face streaked with soot and tears. What now? Ethan looked back at the burning house, then at Mia. We rebuild, he said, his voice steady, but this time, no more secrets. In the distance, the shadow of the hooded figure lingered briefly before vanishing into the night. The game wasn't over yet. Ethan and Mia sat on the edge of the ruined lot, the glow of the dying flames casting flickering shadows across their faces. The fire crew had extinguished the blaze, but the chaos of the night left a storm raging in Mia's chest. Ethan's words, no more secrets, lingered in her mind. But how could she trust them now? The man she thought she knew had a dark, tangled past, and the shadowy figure claiming to be his brother had vanished into the night, leaving only questions behind. Ethan, she began, her voice barely audible over the crackle of embers. Was he telling the truth? Could he really be your brother? Ethan stared at the ground, his jaw tight. I don't know, he admitted. I thought no one survived. But if it's him, he cut himself off, shaking his head. He's not the same person I remember. Mia's eyes filled with tears. The same could be said about you, Ethan. I don't know who you are anymore. Before he could respond, a detective approached, his flashlight slicing through the smoky air. Mr. Reed, Miss Turner, the man said, his tone brisk. We found something in the wreckage. You're going to want to see this. They followed the detective to the edge of the site, where a small team was sifting through the debris. One of the officers held up a charred box, carefully wrapped in protective material. What is it? Mia asked, her heart racing. The detective opened the box to reveal an old photograph, its edges singed but the image still clear. Two boys standing in front of the house, arms around each other, grinning at the camera. Ethan recognized it instantly. It was him and his younger brother, Aaron. I don't understand, Ethan said, his voice cracking. This photo was in the house. How did it survive? That's not all, the detective said, pulling out another item, a small scorched notebook. He flipped through its pages, the handwriting familiar and haunting. It's a journal, the detective explained. It appears to belong to someone named Aaron. The last entry is disturbing. He handed the journal to Ethan, who hesitated before taking it. The final entry read, if he doesn't save me, I'll make him pay, even if it takes a lifetime. Mia felt a chill run down her spine. Ethan, what does this mean? He closed the journal, his hands trembling. It means he planned this, as Aaron's been alive all this time, waiting to strike. As the sun rose, the police began their investigation. But Ethan and Mia couldn't wait for answers. They checked into a small motel on the outskirts of town, both too shaken to return to their apartment. Mia paced the room, her emotions boiling over. What are we supposed to do, Ethan? Just sit here while your brother, if that's even who he is, comes after us again? Ethan rubbed his temples, exhaustion etched into his features. I don't know, Mia. He's been hiding for years. He could be anywhere. Then why show himself now, she pressed. Why not stay hidden? Ethan looked at her, his expression unreadable. Because he wanted me to suffer, and now he's making sure I do. Before Mia could respond, her phone buzzed. She picked it up and froze. What is it? Ethan asked. She held up the screen. It was a text from an unknown number. Mia, you deserve the truth. Meet me at the old train station tonight. Come alone. Ethan snatched the phone, his face darkening. No, you're not going. We don't have a choice, Mia argued. This might be the only way to end this. It's a trap, Ethan said firmly. Maybe, she replied, her voice trembling. But if Aaron wants to talk to me, it means he's not done. And I need answers, Ethan, for both of us. That night, Mia stood alone in the abandoned train station, her nerves frayed. The air was damp and heavy, the distant sound of a train horn echoing eerily. She clutched her phone, ready to call for help, when a figure emerged from the shadows. It was Aaron, or the man who claimed to be him. His face was gaunt, his eyes sharp with intensity. "You came," he said, his voice low. Mia swallowed hard. "I want to know the truth." Aaron smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. The truth is your perfect Ethan isn't who you think he is." "I know what happened," she said. "The fire, your family, but why wait all these years to come after him?" Aaron's expression darkened. "Because I wanted him to feel safe, to build a life. And then, when he had everything he ever wanted, I'd take it away, like he took everything from me." "He said he didn't know you were inside," Mia countered. Aaron stepped closer, his voice rising. "He knew. He heard me screaming, and he walked away. He let me burn while he saved himself." Mia's heart pounded. "If that's true, then why are you talking to me? Why not confront him directly?" Aaron tilted his head. "Because I need you to see what kind of man you're protecting, and because you're the key to his undoing." Before Mia could respond, the sound of footsteps echoed through the station. She turned to see Ethan, his face a mask of fury. "Aaron!" he shouted. "Leave her out of this!" Aaron's smile widened. "Right on time, big brother." Ethan grabbed Maya's arm, pulling her behind him. "If you want revenge, take it out on me, but you don't touch her." Aaron laughed, a hollow sound. "Revenge? Oh, Ethan, this isn't just about revenge. It's about justice, and you'll get yours soon enough." He pulled something from his pocket, a small device with a blinking red light. "What is that?" Ethan demanded. Aaron's grin turned sinister. "Insurance. You didn't think I'd let you walk away again, did you?" Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled, and a deafening explosion ripped through the station, throwing Mia and Ethan to the ground. As dust and debris filled the air, Mia struggled to her feet, coughing. Aaron was gone, his figure disappearing into the chaos. Ethan helped her up, his face grim. "Are you okay?" Mia nodded, but her eyes were wide with fear. "Ethan, he's not just after you. He's playing a game, and we're all pieces on his board." As the authorities swarmed the station, Mia and Ethan knew they couldn't run anymore. Aaron's vendetta wasn't just personal. It was calculated, and he was always one step ahead. Back at the motel, another note was waiting for them, slipped under the door. "You survived round 1. Let's see how far you'll go to keep your dreams alive. Tick-tock." The message was signed with a single letter. A. Mia looked at Ethan, her voice trembling. "What does he want?" Ethan's gaze hardened. "He doesn't just want revenge, he wants to destroy everything I've built." Mia gripped his hand tightly. "Then we fight back." But as they stared at the note, both of them knew the real question. How do you defeat a ghost who knows all your secrets?
Ethan and Mia drove in silence, the weight of Aaron's cryptic messages bearing down on them like a storm. The note at the motel, Tick-tock, had been accompanied by coordinates leading to an abandoned factory on the outskirts of town. Ethan's grip on the wheel was tight, his jaw clenched. "We shouldn't go," Mia whispered. "We don't have a choice," Ethan replied, his voice firm. "He won't stop until we face him." As they neared the factory, the looming structure felt like a monument to their unraveling lives, cold, empty, and riddled with shadows. Inside, the air was stale, and the sound of dripping water echoed through the cavernous space. Flickering lights illuminated a crude setup: a table, 2 chairs, and a small TV displaying static. On the table was another note: "Welcome to the final round. Sit, or she dies." Mia's breath hitched. "Ethan, what does he mean? I'm right here." Ethan's eyes darted around, his instincts screaming that something was wrong. Suddenly, the TV flickered to life, and a video played. It was Mia, bound, gagged, and unconscious. Mia gasped in horror. "What is this? I'm right here." Ethan reached for her, but his hand passed right through her arm. She began to fade, her voice echoing like a distant whisper. "Ethan, help me." Then she was gone. Ethan stumbled back, his mind reeling. A voice crackled through the TV. Aaron's. "Impressive, isn't it? I've always admired your ability to lie to yourself, Ethan, but now it's time to face the truth." Aaron emerged from the shadows, his face illuminated by the glow of the screen. He held up a device resembling a remote control, his eyes glinting with malice. "She was never here, Ethan," Aaron said, his tone cold. "She's been with me the whole time. What you've been seeing, what you've been feeling, was my little experiment, a dream I created to show you how easily your reality can crumble. Ethan's knees buckled. You're lying, Aaron smirked. Am I? Think about it. Have you ever wondered why she always knew the right thing to say? Why she never doubted you, no matter how much you've messed up? That wasn't Mia, Ethan. That was guilt, your guilt. Ethan clutched his head, memories flashing like lightning, Mia's unwavering support, her insistence on facing Aaron, her willingness to forgive. It all felt too perfect. No, Ethan whispered. She's real. I know she is. Aaron leaned in, his voice a venomous whisper. Then save her, if you can. The TV cut to live footage of Mia, strapped to a chair in a room filled with explosives. A timer on the screen began counting down from 5 minutes. You have a choice, Aaron said, stepping back. Save her, or save yourself. The door behind me leads to her. But if you go through it, you'll trigger the detonator. Stay here, and you'll live to see another day. Tick-tock. Ethan's heart raced. Why are you doing this? Aaron's face twisted with rage. Because you left me to die. And now you'll finally understand what that feels like. Without hesitation, Ethan bolted for the door. Aaron's laughter echoed behind him. So predictable, big brother. Ethan burst into the room where Mia was being held. She was unconscious, her face pale, the timer ticking down to less than a minute. He fumbled with the straps, his hands shaking. Mia, wake up, he pleaded. Her eyes fluttered open. Ethan? It's okay. I've got you, he said, freeing her arms. The timer hit 10 seconds. Ethan grabbed her hand and ran, but as they reached the exit, the explosives detonated. A deafening roar filled the air, and the force of the blast sent them hurtling to the ground. When Ethan came to, the factory was in ruins. He searched desperately for Mia, his vision blurred by dust and tears. Finally, he found her, lying motionless among the debris. Mia, he sobbed, cradling her. Please, wake up. Her eyes opened slowly, and she smiled weakly. You found me, she whispered. Before he could respond, a sharp pain pierced his side. He looked down to see a knife, Aaron's hand gripping the hilt. Aaron leaned close, his voice cold and triumphant. I told you, Ethan, you can't save everyone. Ethan collapsed, his vision darkening. The last thing he saw was Aaron dragging Mia away, her screams echoing in his ears. Weeks later, a video surfaced online. It showed Mia, alive but pale, sitting in a dimly lit room. If you're watching this, she said, her voice trembling, then you know the truth. Ethan is gone, and now I'm trapped in Aaron's game, but I'll find a way out. I have to. For Ethan. For us. The screen faded to black, leaving behind a single line of text. The game isn't over. The video cut to static, but the chilling words lingered like a specter. Mia's plea for help had left the world captivated, her face becoming a haunting symbol of a cruel, twisted game orchestrated by a maniac. But Aaron had underestimated Ethan. Ethan woke in a hospital bed, his body battered but alive. The knife wound had nearly killed him, but sheer will had kept him from fading. As he regained his strength, the police questioned him endlessly, but Aaron's plans had been too meticulous, leaving no trace of his whereabouts or motives. Ethan knew that waiting on the authorities would mean losing Mia forever. With nothing but a fresh scar and a fire in his heart, he began piecing together the puzzle Aaron had left behind. Weeks passed, and Ethan followed every lead, each breadcrumb Aaron had carelessly or deliberately left behind. Old hideouts, cryptic messages embedded in the video's metadata, and fragments of their shared past all pointed to a chilling destination, the orphanage where they had been placed before their family tragedy. Ethan arrived at the dilapidated building at dusk. Shadows danced in the broken windows, and the air was thick with decay and memories. Inside, the walls were covered in photographs of Ethan and Mia, their lives meticulously documented like a grotesque museum exhibit. In the center of the room was a single chair, a projector casting Aaron's face onto the peeling wall. "Welcome back, brother," Aaron's voice boomed. "I knew you wouldn't disappoint me." Aaron stepped into the light, dragging Mia with him. She was weak but defiant, her wrists bound. Her eyes met Ethan's, a spark of hope igniting despite the dire situation. "It ends here, Aaron," Ethan said, his voice steady despite the rage bubbling beneath. "Let her go. This is between us." Aaron laughed, a hollow sound. "You still don't get it, do you? This was never just about you and me. This is about justice, about balance. You took my life, so I'll take yours, piece by piece." Ethan took a step forward, his fists clenched. "You don't have to do this. We can fix this." We're brothers." Aaron's face twisted with pain and fury. "Brothers, you left me to die." The room fell silent, the weight of Aaron's words pressing down like a storm. Aaron pulled out a detonator, his thumb hovering over the button. "Here's how this ends. You choose. Save her or save yourself. But this time, there's no escape." The timer on the projector began counting down from 1 minute. Ethan's mind raced. He had no weapons, no plan, only the truth he needed Aaron to hear. "You're right," Ethan said, stepping closer. "I failed you. I made the worst mistake of my life, and I've lived with it every day since. But killing me won't change the past." Aaron hesitated, his grip on the detonator faltering. "And what about Mia?" Ethan continued. "She's innocent in all of this. If you hurt her, you'll be no better than the man who hurt us." Tears welled in Aaron's eyes, but the anger still burned. It's too late for that. With 10 seconds left, Ethan lunged forward, grappling with Aaron. The detonator slipped from Aaron's hand, clattering to the floor. Mia screamed as the timer hit 0, but instead of an explosion, the projector shut off, plunging the room into darkness. A spotlight flickered on, revealing a camera mounted on the wall. Aaron began laughing, his voice unhinged. "You really thought I'd make it that easy?" he said, stepping back. "This was never about bombs, Ethan. This was about breaking you." Police sirens wailed in the distance, their flashing lights cutting through the gloom. "You called them?" Aaron hissed. Ethan nodded. "It's over, Aaron. You don't have to run anymore." Aaron's face hardened and he turned to Mia. "Run, little brother, or I'll make sure you lose her forever." In one swift motion, Aaron pulled Mia toward a hidden door. Ethan charged after them, his heart pounding. But as he reached the threshold, a deafening gunshot echoed through the space. When the dust settled, Mia stood trembling, a gun in her hands. Aaron lay on the ground, clutching his side, his blood pooling beneath him. "I didn't want to," Mia whispered, her voice breaking. "But he left me no choice." Ethan pulled her into his arms as the police stormed in, taking Aaron into custody. As he was dragged away, Aaron's bloodied lips curled into a sinister smile. "This isn't over," he rasped, his eyes locking with Ethan's. "You'll never escape me. Not in this life, or the next." Weeks later, Ethan and Mia tried to rebuild their lives, but every shadow, every creak in the night felt like a ghost from their past. One evening, as they sat together, Mia's phone buzzed. She hesitated, her face pale, as she read the message. "Dreams never die. See you soon." Ethan's heart sank as he stared at the screen, his scars aching with the weight of what was to come. Was Aaron ever truly defeated, or had he already won?